Thank you for coming to today's webinar on acquisitions in LEAP for version 8.0. So this webinar will be covering some of the same topics that I covered in the first introduction to the upgrade webinar, What's New in LEAP. I'm going to begin, as I usually do, with a review of the current state of LEAP so you get an idea of what's currently in LEAP and what still requires the client. I will also be repeating some topics from the cataloging session. So if you attended the cataloging and LEAP session from last week, some of these topics will already be familiar to you, but I'll be covering them in an acquisition context. So these topics will include the templates, the new tabs in LEAP Workforms, import profiles, and I'll also include reviews throughout um, the webinar on some existing features so that you can see the new features within the workflow, like bulk adding titles to the PO, checking for duplicate segments, and then I'll review receiving and invoicing. So I have an invoice to copy, and I'll end by um, showing off the new EDI processing functions. So at this point, LEAP has a full manual and EDI workflow. Very few functions are missing from LEAP that require the client. I know many of the libraries with manual workflows use Rapid Receipt and LEAP. Innovative is still in the process of programming this functionality. I had a very productive meeting with their user experience designer and one of the library staff to provide them with feedback on it. So we know that they are working on getting feedback from the library staff that regularly use this workflow. Since all of the new libraries are being trained in LEAP, we are not training them to use Rapid Receipt in the client. They have been very happy with the workflows as they are in LEAP, so I do encourage you to give it a try and use it for your daily tasks to see what you think about it. Another missing function includes the PO templates. However, these aren't that necessary to use. I don't think they really improve the efficiency of the client. The ability to uncancel a poly, the multi-fund editor, and the ability to receive and create items from an invoice are also still missing. Are there any questions on the functions that are missing in LEAP and still require the client? If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to. Oh, there is a question just now. Brenda asks, what's the estimated time on rapid receipts? I am not sure, but I think it should be added possibly with version 8.2, but I'm not certain on that yet. That's what they told me, but it may change. So we'll have to see. So I can take a look at the end of my presentation to go back to this and see if the product dashboard has an update on that. So the next thing on my agenda is to review the templates. So the new bibliographic record templates are now available. You do have the option to click on the new drop-down menu to access template and or from the drop-down menu, and then click on bibliographic record to create a new one from scratch. This has the same mark editing functions as the mark editor, but I know that most of you don't create templates from scratch, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. You can access all of your existing bibliographic record templates to edit them and copy them from the Find tool. Under the Database drop-down menu, you will find Bibliographic Templates. You can use the filter by clicking on the funnel icon to filter by owner. You may want to do that. So I'm just going to filter by the ones owned by CCS by typing in cooperative and then an asterisk for a wildcard to press apply. And I'll look for any that start with the word on order. So you'll find many different templates that we've already created for you that you can copy. And I'm just going to open up a video game template. So with one of these templates open, you can see all of our existing tags and then see if you need to copy them to create a new template and edit it. To copy it, you'll find this in the Actions drop-down menu. This also has a delete button to delete any templates you don't want. So I'm going to copy this one. And you would just change the template name after you've copied it to have your three-letter library code. You can change the template owner to your library's name. However, the owner needs to remain Cooperative Computer Services with SYS in parentheses. This will become the owner of the bibliographic record when you create it. After changing the owner and the name, you can make any changes that you want to the template and then save it. You also have the ability to create templates from existing bibliographic records. So I'm just going to briefly open up an early learning kit record. I'll open up this one from Niles. So to create a template from a bibliographic record, you would open up the Actions drop-down menu and click on Create Template. You would change the name and the template owner. Then you can edit it as you need to and press Save. From the templates, you do not have a way to create a bibliographic record from scratch. Since you are mostly working with purchase orders, you would not necessarily be using the drop-down menu to create bibliographic records. But if you do need to do that, you would click on the new drop-down menu and click on bibliographic. Here you will find the list of bib templates that you can use. You would select it, click OK. Then you would edit the bibliographic record. I'll just call this example and click Save to create a new bibliographic record. Though it does want me to add in an O2O and 100 tags, so I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to move on to the workflow for purchase orders. So one of the great things about using purchase orders to create bibliographic records is that it's very efficient. So if you're creating a bibliographic record for a video game, you don't need to type it in manually. Instead of typing it in manually before creating your purchase order, what you can do is create a purchase order manually, use the bibliographic template drop-down menu in the line item to select a template for your bibliographic record so that when you release the purchase order, it will create a bibliographic record and an item record at the same time. So I'm going to demonstrate that now. So I'm going to create a new purchase order by opening the new drop-down menu and clicking on purchase order. So this will be video game example for my number. And I'm going to click on supplier to find a supplier. I need to filter by the library just to find the suppliers for the library that I'm logged into. I'm logged into Glencoe. I know you won't be purchasing video games from Ingram that I know of, but I'm just selecting that because that's what's available right now. And I'm saving the record. Now I can add my line items. So I'm going to add a line item from scratch by clicking on New Line Item. So I'm going to assume that I know that there's no bibliographic record in the system, and we'll just type in a title, Donkey Kong 2027, for when this coming out in the future. I'll type in Nintendo for the author, Nintendo for the publisher. We'll make this Donkey Kong Switch for version. So I'll type Switch in the title. The year will be 2027. Switch can be the edition. I'll type in a random number. This will be my fake use PC number. So here in the bibliographic template drop-down menu, I'm going to try to find one for Switch. I know I've got some here. I'll just choose one for a different library if I. Here's one that's for Switch from CCS. And I need to type in, or I need to add in the material type. So at this point, the material type and collection combination is very important because we don't have a 970 subfield H. So it's going to use the material type and collection combination to find a item template to use. And now I need to add in a segment. So I'll put in the collection of multimedia, and we'll use my example fund here and press save. So my line item has been created. I'll press refresh to be able to see it. And we'll release this. I will see a pop-up that it's confirming I want to create on order items. So I'll click on yes. And we'll see the payment option screen. So I'll click continue. And I'll bypass those encumbrance limits. So now that I have released that PO, I can click on the Bibliographic Records tab, and there is a new bibliographic record here that I created when I released the PO. So you can see that it's added the bibliographic information from my poly and has all of the default information from the template. And I also have my item record here that I can navigate to if I need to. Oop. There's the items tab. I clicked on bibliographic record again. So here is the the item record for that poly. Are there any questions on creating bibliographic record templates or purchase orders manually that I've demonstrated so far. So feel free to type in the chat or unmute yourself and ask a question if you'd like. If I do go too fast, please let me know and I can go back and do the demonstration again. We have plenty of time today. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to move on to the next topic. I do regularly get asked how to access item templates in Leap, so I am going to demonstrate that. You do have the ability to create new ones from scratch by clicking on the new drop-down menu, hovering over template, and then clicking on item. To access your existing ones, you can open the Find tool. Everything is under the database drop-down menu, so you can scroll down to item template and click on item template. I need to use the filter to bring up just one library's templates, so I'm going to use the filter for Glencoe. And you can use an asterisk if you don't know the name of your template, or you can type in on order and then asterisk. This will bring up all of your templates. The asterisk is a wild card. You can then open up your template to edit it if you need to edit it. You can also copy an existing template by clicking on copy and then editing it. Is there any questions on item templates or bibliographic record templates? I don't see any questions, so I'm going to move on to import profiles. There are some differences between the import settings in a client and Leap. So before we review importing in Leap, I'd like to review some of the different mark import options that you have in the client so you can use that as a reference and understand the difference between the two platforms. So in the import part of the utilities drop-down menu, you have Express Import and Full Imports. So Express Import only allows you to change the display impact settings and the record set settings. So these are the same options that you have in Leap when you access Mark Import from the Utilities drop-down menu. So Full Import allows you to change all settings in an import profile before importing a file. But the workflow in Leap is a bit different. So as I mentioned, Express Import can be accessed from the Utilities drop-down menu. The workflow for Full Import is a bit different because you don't have that option to check Express Import or to access Express Import and Full Import from the Utilities drop-down menu in Leap. If you need to make changes to an import profile, besides what's allowed for Express Import, you need to search for the import profile in the Find tool, make a change to that profile, and save it. Then you can navigate to Mark Import from the Utilities drop-down menu to import a file. So if you need to change settings a lot, you may just want to create a separate import profile so you don't have to change those settings. I don't know if any of you do this regularly. I know that it could be potentially used by libraries that do not use Polaris for acquisitions, because those libraries use the Items tab regularly to create their items um, from the time that the records are imported instead of when releasing the purchase order. So if that's you and you have any questions, please do let me know. There are other options for importing records with the version 8.0 upgrade. So as you probably already know, we already have the ability to import records from remote databases using Z3950. So that's that bibliographic record remote databases in the Find tool. There are two new options that are new to Leap. One is the TCP IP mark import, which exports records directly from OCLC to Polaris without having to download a file. So I don't know how often any of you access that for your on-order records. It might be something you do if you don't get your vendor records from a vendor. That's something that's still being troubleshooted and is not functioning yet. So I'll let everyone know when that's functioning. The most exciting new option for importing is Mark Import using FTP, which allows vendors to export your records using an FTP site from their site. And this allows Polaris to automatically import your records. So you won't have to download a file from the vendor website anymore with this setup. So it's a bit more efficient, and you can set it up to automatically import the records hourly or daily. So I'll be demonstrating that. So I saw a question came in. One second. Brenda commented that she uses client full import and that she's not sure why you have to change things in order to do full import in Leap. Using full import is only necessary if you have to regularly change your settings. So if you're regularly changing the item templates tab or you're regularly changing the settings like how it deduplicates. For example, if I'm correcting records to work with it to correct an accidental merge, I might change how the deduplication settings are set up rather than use our system defined settings. So if you're not making a lot of changes in your profile, in your import profile, and you're just importing a record, you won't need to make any changes in Leap either. So you would just be importing your file as usual. Does that make sense? Okay, great. I need to switch screens 1 second. Okay, so I'm back at the browser. The new drop-down menu does have the option to create an import profile from scratch, but I know you don't really do this very often or at all because we have templates to copy. So you can find all of your import templates or import profiles and templates in the Find tool by clicking on the database drop-down menu and selecting Import Profile. So I'm going to just look for a template. So we have these templates to copy, and I'll copy this book vendor on order record. So you can search for any of yours and make changes if you do need to. But on the Bibliographic Records tab, we have all of our default settings that you need, so hopefully you won't need to change them. So to copy an import profile, you would click on Actions and then Copy. you would be able to change your template name. So I'm just going to add a library code. You should not need to change any bibliographic records settings, but on the Record Sets tab, you can change the owner and change the name of your record set, and then press save. If you are one of the libraries that works with creating item records as part of your workflow, this is done by the libraries that create them when the records are imported and not when a purchase order is released. You can make changes here to the Item Records tab. This includes selecting item templates. If you are working with the Items Records tab regularly to change the template, you may want to create additional import profiles so you don't have to search for your profile and change that template before importing it. So I do need a purchase order a bit later to demonstrate one of the new features. So I'm just going to briefly import a record. Mark import is under utilities. So I'm going to search for the template name. So you can use this filter here by typing in your 3-letter library code. Here's the import profile that I just created. So once I select that, you can see that the only settings here that you can change are display and pack and the record set settings. So the rest of the settings are grayed out, but normally you would not need to make any changes. So I'm going to find a file. You do not need to go through the network drive to find a file while using Leap. I've put one on my desktop. So I'm just going to select that. You do have to wait for that blue bar that you just saw to complete. If you click on continue before that blue bar goes away, it does not import the file. So now I can press continue. You can see your file listed here. You can import as many files as you want at a time. There is a delete icon to delete them if you selected something by mistake. Then you would scroll up to the top and click on import. So I'm going to come back to that a bit later. I'm going to let that import. And now I'm going to open up a supplier record and show you the new settings in the supplier record. So under the database drop-down menu, you can click on supplier. I'm just going to open up some libraries, old one from Baker and Taylor. Now in your supplier records, you have a new tab, Mark Import. When you click on this, this has a new button to create and add your settings. So you will be adding an FTP address, a username, and a password, Mark directory, and a file extension. You can choose the frequency, daily, hourly, or continuously. You can set a daily time. You can turn it off when you choose never. You would then select an import profile to use by clicking on the Find button. So I wanted to switch to my slides for a second because I have the steps on this slide. So when the vendors create a profile, and you need more than one, you will have them set up more than one directory. So the first thing you need to do is to identify which supplier records will need MARC import via FTP setup. And then identify the import profiles that you will use for each supplier record. So if you will be adding more than one import profile to the supplier record, you need to make note of this and let your vendor know when you contact them to set it up, that they will need to create separate directories for import profile. So this could be a case when you are ordering both AV and books from the same vendor. Or if you are setting up enriched EDI like at Indian Trails or Evanston, and you will be getting on order records and final records from your vendor. So these will need separate import profiles, which means that that supplier record will need to have two different directories set up for these import profiles. So you'll contact your vendor to have them set up the FTP site and the directories, and then you will add the information to your supplier record. You can choose how frequently you would like Polaris to import the files, and then I highly recommend testing the functionality with a very small order. So getting back to the browser, once they start coming in, you will be able to see these files being imported in the same MARC import jobs queue as you would when you manually import your records. So you can set this up in Leap. If you still want to use the client, you will still see it in the jobs queue in the client. The supplier records in Leap, though, is the only way to set this up. The supplier records in the client do not have this new tab, just the ones in Leap do. So are there any questions about this new MARC import via FTP option? Feel free to type in the chat or unmute yourself if you have any questions. And let me know if you want me to repeat anything. But we do have a question. Lay is asking, how does FTP benefit versus doing MARC import per order? It's a bit more efficient. So if you were using MARC import yourself and importing the records, the workflow would be downloading your MARC records for your on order records from the vendor website, and then opening the utilities drop-down menu and using MARC import to import them. So with the new setup with FTP, the vendor will basically just be pushing the records automatically into Polaris by using that FTP site, which is also a site that's basically used for EDI, and then Polaris imports them automatically on the schedule that you choose. So you do not have to download the records and then import them into Polaris. Does that make sense? Lay asks, will the 970 tag be a part of the FTP download? As long as your grids are set up, it should be. So I would assume that like if you're using Ingram, you would have to do something to apply the grid to a cart. I don't know what the setting for telling iPage to send you the records to the FTP site is, but I would assume that you would have to click on something after you've added the grid to the cart to then send the records to the FTP site. Are there any other questions about MARC import via FTP? Lei asks, where can I find more info regarding FTP? I do have the information on how to set it up added to the supplier record page on the website, and I'll be sending out the links after the session. I do have a slide of links to all of the web pages, so I haven't updated the online course for acquisitions yet, but I've added the step-by-step instructions to the web pages. Alicia asks, how is the FTP import file named? And how can we tell each of them apart? I changed the names of the import records so I know which go to which order. I'm not sure about that capability on the vendor side. That's something that you would have to ask your library vendor about if you're interested in setting it up. So I would assume that that would be controlled by the vendor. Are there any other questions about FTP? Okay, I see no more questions, so I'm going to move on to the next topic. So the next new function that I'd like to demonstrate is checking for duplicates. So in order to do that, I do need to create a purchase order. So I'm going to use the file that I just imported, and I'm going to grab the record set name from the import report. It does take some time to load. 1 second while I load this import report. Maybe it will be faster if I just look for it. Let's see. I can grab the name of the record set from from the profile. Still not loading yet. Here's the record set I created. Okay, so I imported two books. I think they look like they are picture books. And I'm going to bulk add these titles to a purchase order. I don't have the 970 tags in them. So I'm going to open the Actions drop-down menu, click on Bulk Add to New PO, and I'm just going to use the default information. So I need to add in a supplier. And I'm going to filter by Glencoe so I can find a supplier record. add in the material type of book new, collection of youth fiction, a fund, and a default price. And then I'll press continue. So one of the things that is new are the links from the bibliographic records to the purchase orders and invoices. So from this purchase orders tab, I can see that here I can navigate to my pending purchase order. So here's my pending purchase order in the list. And I have my 2 line items. So this is really for the demonstration of duplicate check. So from the Actions drop-down menu, I can click on duplicate check, and it will look for any duplicate line items. So you can see that there's already some line items for these titles that exist. If you want to click on them, you can navigate to that duplicate line item. So since these are 1 cent, it's not the actual price. I'm just going to click on them and edit them briefly before I release the PO and create an invoice. So this is on the Details tab. This is where you'll find all your bibliographic information. I'll just make this $10. Press Save. And I'll do this for the next one. And I'll click on the Details tab. Type in $10 and save it. So I'll refresh that and release the PO. This will create the item records and you'll find the item records on the tab. On the Items tab. So you can see it probably didn't use the correct item template. That's because I had no 970 fields and it just used the collection and material type combination to do that. So you'd be able to navigate to the records and correct them here if you had any problems like that. Are there any questions about duplicate checks or what I've demonstrated so far? Feel free to type in the chat.
Rachel, this is Lei.
Yes.
Um, so going back to a few steps a minute ago, and
Sure.
so was it in the record set you created a PO, and then in the record set you found the PO that you created, or on the I I kind of missed that step, I guess.
Not in the record set. The record set does not have the links to the PO like the client does. So I clicked on a bibliographic record. So let me go back to that bibliographic record. So this is the bibliographic record. So it would probably default to landing on the preview, or you could change it to landing on something else in the settings. And then over towards the right-hand side, there are now 2 new tabs for purchase orders and invoices. So from here, you click on the purchase orders tab and you can find a list of all purchase orders.
So is those purchase order just Palatine purchase order, or will it also include other CCS library
That's a
purchase?
good question. My permissions allow me to see all CCS libraries. Um, so I would see all CCS libraries, but I think yours would only allow you to see yours libraries.
Okay, thank you.
Brenda asks if there is a different way to locate your JustMade PO. There is. If you know your PO number, you can find it in the Find tool. So you can open the Find tool and then change the database drop-down menu to purchase order. Type in your PO number and open up your PO. So here's mine here. I made one from Glencoe's account, and it will open it up. That's a great question. Stephanie asks, can you bulk change items in a PO? Not yet. That is still one thing that's missing. I should make sure to add that to my list. It was submitted as an idea, so the idea exchange. So if we get enough votes, hopefully it will be added to Leap soon. Brenda asks, is that the same as opening all items on a PO and then doing an ad hoc bulk change? Yes, that is the same as opening the items from a PO and doing an ad hoc bulk change, but by right-clicking on them in the client. Oh, Kelly says it looks like you can see everyone's POs, but if you try to open one that isn't your library's, it asks for a permission override. Oh, thanks for testing that, Kelly. So if you were to look for your PO from the bibliographic record, you would just look for the correct purchase order number. Are there any other questions? Looks like I closed my PO, so I have to open that one again. So the next new thing is the ability to copy an invoice. I have no idea how often you do this. Does anyone use the copy invoice function in the client to copy their invoices? Feel free to type that in the chat. I see a no from Leap. It doesn't seem the most useful to me because when you copy it, it doesn't copy line items, it just copies the supplier. So I'll demonstrate how to use this. If you do find it useful sometime, let me know. I'm curious. I'm going to receive my PO and copy it to a new invoice to create an invoice. So I've selected all the line items and press it. So this changed the status to received. And to copy them to an invoice, you would select them again and then click on copy to, and then select new invoice or existing invoice. So I'll select new invoice. I'll call this one 66 and press continue. So you can navigate from a purchase order to an invoice. So I'm clicking on the invoices drop-down menu, the invoices tab, and you will see the invoice. So you can click on that. Lay asks, is this link invoice in the staff client? Yes, you can open the links drop-down menu in the staff client from a purchase order and then see the invoice in the links drop-down menu. So if you click on that, it will allow you to navigate to the invoices that are linked to the purchase order.
Oh, Hi Rachel. Sorry, it's
Yes.
late. So this copy invoice is actually the same as doing a link invoice in staff client. I guess that was my question.
Oh, yes. You can't, so I think it functions the same. There is a copy button in the Actions drop-down menu.
Okay.
Um, so basically, in the Leap Actions drop-down menu, there's also a copy button. So I'm going to click on copy. It doesn't matter if it's paid or not. So basically what it does is it copies the supplier. So you don't have to click on find. It's got the owner here. You would press save. And then when you click on line items, there are no line items. So the only thing it really copies is the supplier. So I don't
Oh,
think it really saves time doing this, because the only thing you would need to select is the supplier, and it's still like about the same amount of clicks as you would.
okay. Because I guess I'm a bit confused because I do use link invoices and
Hmm.
then so that the second invoice is linked back to the original invoice. I guess does that make sense? I don't know if copying is will do that.
Um,
It's just a carbon copy, in other words. It won't link like because I'll
the
use the same invoice number when when I do a
oh,
link
okay,
invoice. Do you know what I mean? So that
right.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can definitely do that to copy the invoice number and then make a change to the invoice number. Um, but the actual links between records don't exist between invoice to invoice,
Mhm.
just between purchase order and invoice and funds. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I guess I'll play around with it to see. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Are there any other questions about invoices and the invoice functionality? Okay, so another new feature that is very useful is the full functionality of EDI processing. So this is under the Utilities drop-down menu, and you would click on EDI processing. So this now has the full process invoices functionality. So if you use ASN, you would scan your barcode. I don't have any ASN curtains in here to show you because this is training. You would click on it and receive the carton. It does have the branch and date range filters as well. You have the ability to also print a work slip from this carton. This would use the information from your purchase order. Whether you have ASN or not, you can generate invoices from the Process Invoices tab. So you would use your library to filter or the date range to find any invoices that are unprocessed to check the box and generate the invoice. You can also navigate to the PO line items from here if you'd like. So I don't have any invoices in training to show you, since we don't put any orders from training in. But if any of you regularly have those partially shipped or partial shipments, in which shipments are sent over multiple days, those invoices are held on the FTP site, and you do need to generate the invoice when those arrive. So this is now completely functioning. So if you want to give it a try, I highly recommend it. And let me know what you think. You should be able to still search for your invoices that don't need generate invoice by clicking on the find tool and then searching for them if they arrive. You would only use the process invoices functionality when you have partial shipments or when you have ASN and want to process your invoice immediately after you scan your carton or receive your carton. So this is great to have in Leap. So if you've been hesitant to switch to Leap because you have to go back to the client to use the EDI processing section, you don't have to do that anymore. And you'll be able to have a seamless EDI and ASN workflow from Leap. So please check it out and let me know what you think about it. I'd love to hear what your experience is with switching with Leap. Are there any questions about EDI processing? All right, I'm going to review one more topic and want to go back to a bibliographic record. So this is a popular title to have and a good one to show you what the purchase orders and invoices tabs look like. So I've clicked on that purchase orders tab in the bibliographic record. So you can see that there are many other purchase orders here. So it might be easier for you to just search for the purchase order if you need to. But you were asking about finding your specific ones. So if you are unsure about your specific purchase order, you could potentially change a supplier record to have your three-letter library code here. If you're using your supplier record name to find it, you do have the option of both like a full name of your supplier and an alternative name. So it's this full name of the supplier that would need the three-letter library code. So you could even just temporarily change it so that you can find your line item if you need to. You can see a couple of libraries here have that three-letter library code here. Some have the purchase order with the three-letter library code. And I've clicked on the invoices tab. So the invoice also has that same issue. A lot of these invoice numbers look very similar. And it looks like an easy way to identify them would be if you change that supplier name to have your three-letter library code. So changing that name does not affect the 970 tag because it's not in it. So you shouldn't have any problems with changing that name. So I'm going to open up an item record. There are also links from item records to your purchase order and invoice, but instead of tabs, they put them in the links drop-down menu, so it's a bit inconsistent. But here, this goes directly to your line item, your purchase order line item, and invoice line item. So this is also an easier way potentially to navigate to the purchase order, but you would need to go directly to the item. Go to the item first that you're interested in finding the purchase order for. So it will take you to the line item. And from here, you can click on the purchase order. So same for the invoice. If you click on that invoice line item, it navigates the invoice, and there's a link here for the invoice number. And this will open up your invoice. Are there any questions about what I've demonstrated today? Is anyone feeling excited to try Leap now that there's more functions? I see a no in the chat. Looks like there are some comments about liking Leap. I mean, sorry, liking the client. I had Leap on my mind.
I just think Leap still has a lot more clicking, like finding things versus staff where everything is just there.
I understand everyone's used to using the client.
Maybe it'd be a different story once they like have all of the acquisition module. But again, I just think like where they put the tabs and stuff is just like I just find things a little harder to try to figure out where they are.
I understand.
Yeah, like Stephanie says, it's too spread out. I agree.
Well, if you have any suggestions for how you would want to improve the tabs, please do let me know. It's something we can submit to the Idea Exchange. So please do play around with it and see if you'd have a way of describing how you would want to improve the tabs. So Catherine says she learned Leap before the client, so she usually has both open and goes back and forth, but Leap does have too much white space. It's interesting that you say you go back and forth. What do you like to do in Leap as opposed to the client? I don't see any more comments, but I do want to point out that there is a resources slide here with links to the individual pages of the new functions that I covered. I do see some more comments in the chat. So Catherine says she finds records that's easier to use in Leap, except for deleting them, which is incredibly time consuming. Also checking in and anything to do with holds. Brenda says she often has multiple windows open and works between them in the client. Are there any additional questions that anyone's thought of? John commented that he started using Leap, but started training with the client. So he does like working in Leap and thinks it's great. I do find that those who started to train with Leap right away do like it. So I do want to encourage everyone to try it and let me know if you have any questions or suggestions. I can work on the idea exchange submissions with you to make sure we have the right details in it. If there are no other questions, I'm going to.
Just one quick
Oh,
one.
yes.
The Mark import for FTP, is that
Yes.
just only in Leap, not staff client? Am I correct? Or did I hear that wrong?
The supplier record settings are only in Leap, but you will see it in the import jobs queue of the client. So if you want to stick with import jobs queue and want to give um, FTP a try, you can set it up in Leap and see what it looks like in the client. If you don't like it, you can always turn it off.
Okay. So it works both in Leap and staff client.
Yes, the only thing that's not in the client are the settings in the supplier record.
Oh, got it. Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I don't see any other questions, so I am going to send out links to the resources and the slides after after I end this session. There will also be a QR code in the last slide for our training evaluation. Please do fill out our survey and let us know if you have any ideas of how we can improve our training. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Rachel.